So I remember, like it was 2 a.m. in the morning or something crazy like that. And I was just looking out the window and I was like, universe, help me. And I wasn't religious at this point. I was atheist for most of my life. I'd explored a bit of Buddhism when I was about 16, but I was mostly atheist at that point because I believed, why would these things happen to someone if there was a God? Why would these things happen if there was a universe, right? And within 5 days, the universe delivered.
Hi, my name is Johnny Lawrence and welcome to another episode of Life Talk, the self-development podcast. Today, I'm excited because I get to speak to someone who, without knowing, has had quite an influence on my career-making decisions recently. Today, I'll be speaking to the award-winning life coach, mentor, best-selling author of the two free books, Spiritual Queen, Positively Wealthy, and the Positively Wealthy Journal. She is also, hold on a minute. I'm not quite finished. She's also a speaker, a law of attraction YouTuber, and a podcast host for popular podcast Spiritual Queen's Badass Podcast, which I love the name, and I'm sure you do too. Of course, I'm talking about Emma Mumford. How are you today, Emma?
Oh, thank you, Johnny, for that. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's not a bad. I live in Cornwall, and just looked. It was sunny about 5 seconds ago, and now it's not. So I don't know what's happened.
See, I'm in Dorset, so I'm literally just a little bit up from you. And literally this morning it was like really nice. And I was like, oh, I'll go on my walk before Johnny's interview. And then literally the heavens opened and I was like, maybe not then.
So I believe that the rain was your fault.
Thanks.
Yeah. You have a plan to go walking, and that's what happens. You see.
Yeah.
No, the weather in England. I mean, what's to be said about that?
Well, we're Brits. We're always going to talk about the weather, right? But I feel like a couple of weeks ago we had all this amazing warm weather, and I bought loads of garden furniture. And I was like, my parents like, right, let's get the lawn treated. Let's do this. And now I'm like, the garden looks miraculous, but can't go and sit in it.
That's just always the way, isn't it? I was speaking to someone the other day. I usually ask if people are in other countries. I ask about the weather just because I'm jealous. And
Oh God, no.
and I was speaking to someone in California. I regret it.
I bet you do. No words needed.
She was like, it's beautiful outside. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Come on. It wasn't ideal at all, but there you go. Listen, thank you so much for your time today. I am absolutely positive you're a busy woman. You've got so much going on. And it's just so kind of you to give up your time to speak to little old me today.
Well, thank you for asking me. When I saw your podcast, I was like, yep, let's have this conversation. I loved your vibe. So yeah. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. Thank you for saying that. So my experience with how I came across you was, say about a year and a half ago, I felt my 40th birthday was coming up. And I have been in health and fitness industry for about 15 years. And I made the decision that I didn't want to be in my PE kit when I was 50. And I thought to myself, having worked with people that come to me and say they're unhappy with the way they look, I have experienced that if I give them exercises and nutrition advice, that helps a great deal. But what I've felt that I've done intuitively is I've been able to help them change the way they think, which in turn changes the actions they take, which in turn changes the sort of results they get. And I was interested in the idea of being a life coach, but coming from the testosterone-fueled alpha industry of fitness, I wasn't quite comfortable at that time with the word life coach. And I did some research and I stumbled across you and got pulled in by all your videos on YouTube. So whether you realize it, the irony of you speaking about manifestations, I believe I have manifested this interview.
Yeah. I love it. What an amazing example of manifesting, right?
I was watching you on YouTube and all the stuff you were talking about, your honesty, your journey. I get goosebumps now just talking about it. Like you really I felt connected when you were talking, and you were really speaking to me. And whether you realize it or not, you're part of the reason that I have started moving towards becoming a life coach and self development. I realized that I've kind of been hiding as a PT all this time, and I really was like a life coach all along. You know, I looked through all the reviews that I had, and it's all, oh, he's really helped me change the way I think. So I thought, well, why not? Let's just get into it. But I want other people, you know, to hear about you. That you know, obviously loads of people have 91,000, for example, on Instagram. That's a staggering number.
I
And
still pinch myself. I'm like, what? No, there's actually people there listening or looking or liking. Like, it's amazing when you think about it.
it is incredible. And all I can say is that you are the person doing the job you're supposed to do. And the way you got there just is just amazing. It really is. And there's so much integrity, so much authenticity in what you do that I don't think you can go wrong as long as you just continue to be Emma Mumford, completely honestly.
Oh,
You know,
thank
so
you.
no, and I'm sure you hear that all the time, you know, but you know, I'm not sure you understand. I'm not sure you can understand the impact that you have on individuals. You know, when you see your feed, I'm sure that you know, you get lots of nice comments and you realize that you're helping people. But I know from the experience that I have, the messages that I get, that people take a lot of value from certain posts that you put up, or certain perspectives that you have, or certain videos that you make. But I suspect rarely, other than your clients, do you get to hear from somebody who says, listen, I was in my garden watching you on YouTube and
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And unless, you know, people tell me or people message me, you know, it honestly makes my day. And you know, even just lovely things about, especially like women who have maybe had like issues conceiving babies and things, and maybe we've worked together or they come to an event and then they magically, you know, become pregnant. Like, honestly, I'm a wreck when I get those messages. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy for them. But honestly, you know, hearing, and even your story as well, like even just hearing those makes me so happy, because it's just, you know, it's just lovely to hear that, you know, the work you put out, the hours you put in does positively benefit people. So yeah, like, you know, I just wish I could hear more, but you're right, unless people tell you, like, you
yeah.
don't know.
I mean, you're just a leader, and I just, one of the things I do on this show a lot is I listen to people that talk about self development, and they are extremely knowledgeable and extremely passionate, and they never take the time. The consistent thing I see is these people are great, and they never take the time to stop and go, huh, quite proud of myself. Do you do that?
Yeah, no, I definitely
Yeah.
used to be one of those people. I think definitely until a couple of years ago, before I wrote Positively Wealthy, I was definitely that type of person who was, I guess, still climbing the mountain, but wasn't quite observing how high I was up on that mountain anyway. Whereas now, I think as I went through my Positively Wealthy journey, I realized actually, you know, you have achieved pretty much everything you've wanted to in your career checklist. And, you know, I'm 27, like, I think that's a flipping amazing achievement.
Absolutely.
And you know, I've got so many years ahead of me to do so many more incredible things. So you know, I'm definitely someone, as part of my self-love and self-care routine, you know, I do look up my achievements and I do look up my determination, my hard work, my healing, everything, and I'm like, you did that. Like, yes, you've had amazing people around you supporting you,
Nice.
holding you. And, you know, I have an incredible team who I brought on in the last year, who I love to pieces. So, you know, I'm definitely always someone that's like, you know, it takes a village as well to, you know, like they say, it takes a village to raise a child, you know, it
Yeah.
takes a village to, you know, have someone to hold you and support you and, you know, have your cheerleading team. But also as well, you know, it is us who get ourselves through our hardest times in life, who
Yeah.
get ourselves, you know, motivated each day to show up and to, you know, do the work and, you know, show up on social media, put the content out there. So I think it's really important that every single person, no matter whether, you know, you're where you want to be right now, or even if you're, you know, transitioning and thinking, right, what is my purpose? Like, every single part of your journey is so important. And, you know, we are all incredible no matter what we do in life.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that about myself. I mean, there's a great example of what I mean, really. You know, you just, I mean, it's just, it's interesting you say about the whole team thing and bringing people in, because it is really hard to stay motivated in the self development or self help or whatever, you know, life coaching industry, because you give so much. And you know, that's the lesson that I've learned is to make sure I save a little bit for myself and my family, because sometimes you care so much that you give too much away, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And when you're really passionate about things and it's your purpose, that you want to give your all. And I think that's definitely what I've done for, a good solid 8, 9 years of my life. Whereas
Yeah.
now I'm like, I really want like a family, and I really want to like give that energy to my family and like create a family and settle down. So for me, that shift is happening now, where I'm like, right, I've done the hard graft. Now I can allow myself to be held, and also, focus on the things that I really want to focus on in the next few years as well.
I'm so excited to watch how you unfold. I mean, to think of what you've done. I'm not sure I realized you were 27. I mean, that's remarkable, what you've managed to achieve in that time. And really, you know, going from your videos and stuff like that, it's not really been a massive amount of time that you've really sort of been in this industry as such. You know, you've achieved
Mhm.
so much because of your determination and your vision and all those things. And I think that's where I'd like to start, really. I mean, you speak about one of your videos, about anxiety and depression, and you discuss that feeling of being rock bottom. And I just wanted to hear, I want everyone else to hear your sort of journey from that feeling of being at rock bottom and the anxiety and depression to manifesting this sort of remarkable life that you have now. I wonder if you'd be kind enough to sort of let us know, about your journey.
Of course, of course. So we'll go back to 2012. So this is when it all kind of started as such. So at the time I was 18, I was in a not so great relationship, and I just really didn't know who I was. I didn't have any self-love, self-care, none of this existed back then. And I really kind of felt like a lost soul, definitely. And I was a banker at the time, so I was in a very corporate job. I'd had marketing jobs before that. So for me, I was just lost, is how I would describe it. And although I liked helping people in my banking job, and I liked the interaction with people, and having my old dears come in and have a cup of tea with me, my boss hated me. He was like, Emma, you've got these targets, and all you're doing is having cups of tea with your old ladies every week. And I'm like, this is my dream life here. So, for me, I loved that part of banking, but I hated having to go to work every day and be forced to have these conversations with people of take out this loan, take out this credit card. And it was just, it felt so icky to me. And I thought, I'm great at what I do. I have amazing sales history from my different sales backgrounds I've done, but this was a hell no. So I believe that's where the kind of anxiety and depression started, was the feeling of I was in debt myself. So the partner I was with at the time, he had debt from a previous relationship, and I decided to take it on to help us because I got lower rates being a banker. So I did it to help us. And that relationship so quickly broke down afterwards, and he never paid a single penny of it. So I was then lumbered at the tender age of 20 with this £7,000 worth of debt, which wasn't even my own or my own fault. And I was working in the bank at the time still, and feeling like every time I was going to work, I was being reminded of the debt. I was being reminded of my situation. And it just was too much, especially being in like a not great relationship as well. So I feel like that was the catalyst of really that soul searching and realizing that I was not where I wanted to be at all. So I experienced anxiety to start off with, and I would have panic attacks most days, to the point where I couldn't even go to work. So I was signed off ill from work. So I had to leave my banking job because I just couldn't go. It was that bad.
Sorry, you
It,
mentioned you mentioned a case on a bus, and it sounded
mm,
horrendous. Like, I can't imagine. You must have felt so boxed in that little
yeah.
experience. What I'm referring to is there's a video that Emma's made where she said she felt like you were having a panic attack on the bus, didn't you?
Yeah. I used to catch the bus to work every day to my banking role. And literally, I was just sat there one day and I just felt like I was having a heart attack. Like, that's
Oh,
the only way I could describe it. And when you're just like, I really don't want to make a scene, but I honestly think I'm going to pass out and have a heart attack here.
oh,
And then
bless you.
it was this feeling of sickness. So the biggest trigger of my anxiety was sickness. So I would feel like I was going to be sick as well, which is obviously not a great feeling to have. So when you're overheating and you're worrying about what's happening to your body, it's triggering off the anxiety even worse, because it's
Oh,
just like that trickle effect. So that was like the first experience. And then, of course, I realized, because my lovely godmother is a counselor counselor, and when I worked with her like a little bit later, you know, she said that you're associating that bus journey with going to work. So the travel aspect, like the travel was the trigger for me. Whenever I got in a car, a bus, whatever, I would feel this anxiety, was because my body was like, oh, she's going to work. Whereas, you know, I wasn't always going to work. So for me, it was really interesting to like connect those dots and to be able to heal that as well, to be able to get on public transport or transport in general and go places. But it got to a stage where I was housebound. It was that bad. And I think once I was out of the bank, I was then in that bad relationship in our house together. So again, it was still there. And, you know, I don't feel there was loads of support around at the time, or a lot of understanding of these things. So I then went and got a part-time retail job to just, you know, support ourselves financially. As I was transitioning out of that relationship, obviously I had £7,000 worth of debt to clear at that point. So I would still say it was very much anxiety at that point. Then I got into another relationship very soon after that relationship broke down. And at first it was great. At first it felt like that's exactly what I needed. But that relationship turned into a sexually and emotionally abusive relationship, sadly.
Oh.
And this again, I was so young at this point, and once I'd cleared the debt, I've missed a bit of the story here. So in 2012, as I was in the debt and working part-time, as I was transitioning from that first relationship, I needed to save money, and needed to save money desperately to clear this debt. You know, I wasn't going to let this destroy me. And although I was working part-time, you know, it was a lot I had to pay off each month. So luckily I was able to move back in with my parents at the time and save some money there. And they were great support. But I decided to find couponing, of all things. So I was watching TLC one day and extreme couponing came on, and I was like, this is some of me. This is like, you know, exciting. They're getting all these thousands of pounds worth of groceries for nothing. Like, I could do this. So I decided to Google, and there wasn't anything like this over here in the UK at the time. So I thought, how are people getting these coupons? So I decided to take it upon myself to research, to find these coupons, and very quickly had, you know, the stockpiles that you see on extreme couponing in my spare room. And, you know, my friends like, Emma, you need to share this with people. Like, how are you doing this? And at first I was like, well, who am I to do this? You know, we've got Martin Lewis, we've got all these amazing financial experts out there. Why on earth would little Emma Mumford be able to help anybody with this? So after a lot of pestering from my friends, I started up a Facebook group called Extreme Couponing and Deals UK. And within 6 months, it just literally took off. Like, it had about like 50,000 followers at that point. The press got involved and wanted to do all these stories on me of like how much I was saving, how much I was donating to charity as well through couponing. And it was just amazing to be able to take that message to more people and help people who were like myself and like my customers at the bank, who wanted to get out of debt but didn't know how to. So instead of putting people into debt, it felt so much more rewarding because I was helping people get out of debt and feel better about themselves and have nice things as well. So that's how my first business started back in 2012, 2013. And I ran that business for 6 years. So that's when I then got into the second relationship, and I was running that business, getting myself out of debt and helping other people as well. And I used to go on ITV's This Morning with Phil and Holly and teach people about money saving and couponing, which was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I bet.
So cool, honestly. And then meeting Martin Lewis and things, you're like, whoa, where am I? Like, this has gone far. And I was nicknamed the UK's coupon queen as well. So that's why I was known as coupon queen at that point. So I loved that business. And as that relationship started to deteriorate, the depression really creeped in at that point. And I really believe it creeped in, one, because of the nature of that relationship, two, because I hadn't healed anything from the previous or my childhood. And I think as well, the anxiety was still there underlining the whole time. So it just developed into that depression. And by the time in 2016 we're in now, by the time that relationship fully broke down and I decided to walk away, you know, I was at rock bottom, a place of, I feel empty. I didn't know who I was anymore. And, you know, I will say, like, that couponing business kept me alive because it was the one thing I woke up for every day, and to help people. And I feel like it was like the distraction that I needed at that point to just continue on. So I do give a lot to that business in terms of like supporting me, helping me get out of debt, put me on this path to where I am now. So 2016 is when I had my spiritual awakening. So when I split up with my ex and things were really, really rock bottom and dire, I definitely felt suicidal, but I knew I couldn't do that to myself. I knew that I couldn't find the strength to do that. So I was like, I'm gonna have to help myself get better, because this is not what life is meant to be. This is not where I'm meant to be. And how can I love myself? How can I be happy? Because I don't know what that is. So I remember, like it was 2 a.m. in the morning or something crazy like that. And I was just looking out the window and I was like, universe, help me. And I wasn't religious at this point. I was atheist for most of my life. I'd explored a bit of Buddhism when I was about 16, but I was mostly atheist at that point, because I believed, why would these things happen to someone if there was a God? Why would these things happen if there was a universe, right? And within 5 days, the universe delivered. And I was just on my laptop one day and I kept seeing this term law of attraction mentioned everywhere. And I was like, what on earth is this? And at first I thought it was like attracting love or something. I was like, okay, I'll have a look at this. What's this? And then I came across Louise Hay in a video, and I was just Googling like how to turn a negative situation into a positive, and one of her videos came up. Little did I know it was Louise Hay at the time. And I just really liked everything she was saying. And again, she was mentioning this law of attraction. So I decided to Google it, found The Secret, watched The Secret on Netflix. And I then bought The Magic, which is Rhonda Byrne's second book after The Secret, called The Magic. And I did that. And it's like a 28-day practice book of like, self-love, manifesting, all those things. And that book is what I put this down to. Of I saw massive shifts in those 28 days just by learning about the law of attraction. And I realized that although there are a whole ton of different conversations around whether we attract things to us, bad situations. I don't believe we always do. But I think I could take accountability for myself and say, well, actually, here's how I've been showing up to those relationships. Here's how I've been showing up to life so far and how I can change that. So I decided to sell the couponing business, in 2018. And from kind of 2016 to 2018, I was kind of integrating bits of law of attraction in my YouTube, in my kind of Coupon Queen blog, because it was more lifestyle than just money saving focus. So I thought people were going to think I was mad and were like, what's this woman doing? No, like you can't just go from money saving to now manifesting money. But luckily everybody was so welcoming of it and everybody loved it. So in 2018, 2017, 2018, I decided, right, I'm ready to put both shoes on my spiritual path. I'm ready to let that couponing business go. It's outgrown me. I've outgrown it. It needs a team of people. And I've evolved as well. Like I'm always going to coupon. I'm always going to money save. I get excited by 10% off all the blooming time. But I knew that I needed to do this business now. So yeah, I've been running my spiritual business since 2017. And yeah, I'm just like, so grateful for this journey, but it's been a journey.
Oh, I mean, there's so much there that I want to ask about. I mean, there's 3 words I wrote down while you were telling your story: lost, trapped, and in debt. And does that not reflect how a lot of people are feeling right now in the UK and the rest of the world? There's a lot of people that are feeling lost. There's a lot that's been taken away from us recently, all the way down to hugging our own mothers. Trapped, not been able to leave the house.
Yeah.
And in debt, people have lost their jobs. It's amazing to me how this story is so relatable to absolutely everybody at this moment. And to know that there's a positive solution to this is exciting. And this is why I believe this conversation is so topical. I believe that you very well may be the answer to some people's problems at the moment. So, I mean, I don't even know where to start. I mean, so you went from feeling, suicidal, which is hard to hear. And, especially now after recent events, feeling at rock bottom, anxiety and depression, and you now have a spiritual business. And you mentioned also that you've not been religious before. Is your spirituality religious based, or is it just?
I wouldn't say it is at all. I'm always someone who's like law of attraction, universe, spirituality. There is no one shoe fits all. For me, I don't associate it to a religion. It's just love. To me, like spirituality is love. And I feel like anybody and everybody, and again, whether you class yourself as religious or not, there's no right or wrong answer here. That's the good thing. Like, it's what feels good to you. So for me personally, I wouldn't call it religion, but I would say that for me, it's that connection that I have with that higher source, to co-create my world and to feel supported.
I mean, in my experience as a coach, and I bundle in the health and fitness industry as well, because that is coaching and especially the way I did it. But most problems come down to people not giving themselves what they need, not loving themselves, not putting themselves first. I recently had an experience where I had somebody who was on antidepressants, really, really rock bottom. They had a lot of responsibilities, a big business, a family. And from the outside looking in, they should look happy, right? It's that Instagram effect. But they were in a bad way. And then 8 weeks later, which happens to be the Sunday just gone, they sent me this message saying how they've never felt so happy and content in their entire life. And they just had that thought pop into their head and they wanted to let me know. And I'm not saying that because I'm taking any sort of credit. I'm saying that because all I did with this person, all we did in that relationship was get her to pay attention to herself, to care for herself, to love herself, to put her hand on her heart and ask herself, what do I need? And then give it to themselves, put themselves before others, And I just find that interesting because it's relatable to what you've said, So, so how did that spiritual business turn into the life coaching business that it is today?
Yeah, so when I started the Spiritual Queen brand as such, I didn't actually do coaching to start off with. It was my YouTube videos, my blog, and I was starting to write my Spiritual Queen book at that point as well. And I didn't really, I guess, have a master plan of like what I was going to do. I'm definitely a wing it businesswoman. A lot of people are like, oh, you must have had like a 5-10 year plan. I was like, nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
Oh,
Now
I'm all
I'm a
over
little
it.
bit better. I'm definitely a little bit better now. But I'm really intuitive of what I do. So I allow the universe to guide me. So I don't tend to really think too far in advance because I know things change so much. And I'm definitely like I'm a Virgo sun sign and Aries rising. So I'm someone who's definitely likes excitement. I like to be spontaneous, but also Virgo, love being practical, love having lists and love planning things. So I do like to be spontaneous sometimes. So yes, in terms of how I got here, it literally was from comments on my YouTube of followers saying, Emma, like, I really want you to coach me. You should do coaching. And I was like, who am I to do that? Like, I'm not a coach. I haven't studied psychology. I haven't done any of these things. Like, how does even one become a coach? So after a lot of pestering, again, there seems to be like a pestering theme in my life, whether it's from my friends or my followers, they were like, come on, do this. Like, I would love to book in with you. So I explored it and I was like, right, how do I go and qualify to be a coach? How do I ensure as a coach? How do I make sure I'm doing this above board and I'm actually going to help people? Because, for me, that was the most important part of, I don't just want to, be a cowboy and go in and be like, yeah, I can help you. It was the case of, right, I need to learn how to coach, because it's one thing sitting online and doing YouTube videos. It's another thing being in a client environment where you're, responsible. You have code of conduct, ethics, you are responsible for the client to some degree. So obviously I wanted to make sure, I was prepared to do that, had the knowledge and had the credentials as well to do that. So that's what I focused on. And then, 4 years ago, I qualified. And 3-4 years I've been coaching now, and it's just really taken off from there. I did some business mentoring a little bit in my previous business, so I had some experience with business mentoring, and then I brought business mentoring back into my business just because so many spiritual or wellness people want to do what I do or do coaching, do what we do, Johnny. And I just thought, well, actually, I've got that talent there as well. So I want to do that. And then it evolved into author coaching as well. Once I then released my books, where I now help people write their books. I help them to pitch it to traditional publishers, get book deals, because I've been through that. So I think coaching, I think you might agree with this as well, is very much experience based. Like, you've got to go through those things to then be able to help others with them.
I mean, I say it very often, is that education meets experience is wisdom. And it's difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult to really understand. The example I give is when I used to be a young PT with no children. And in walks a tired mother, and I'm like, oh well, let's go carry on training. Now I'm like, oh no, what happened? What do you mean you didn't get you only got 2 hours sleep? Oh, what was it, colic, reflux, huh? And it's like that understanding of that situation, and it's that, again, it's that experience, isn't it? And I mean, some of the people that I help have had issues around trauma, and my experience, unfortunately, is a lot of childhood trauma. So I'm able to offer a different perspective on that. So yeah, I absolutely agree, and I resonate with absolutely everything you're saying. Everything, you know. You've had a big influence on me, I'll say that. So my next question was around manifestation. I mean, we've all met the person that as soon as you start talking about manifestation, they roll their eyes. But as I said, only a year and a half ago, I'm watching you on YouTube, and to that point, I'd not come into contact with you in any way. And I said to myself in that moment that I was going to take a different path, and I started doing YouTube videos, and I started doing other things about what I knew about and what I could help about, and giving my perspective. And I always thought it'd be lovely to speak to you. And look at this.
Here we are.
Here we are, chatting away. So please, what is manifestation? How does it work? And how can people get started?
Yes. So I'm always someone who's super practical with the law of attraction, just because I think, like you say, there are so many people who are like, what is this? How does this work? That explaining it in a way that is relatable and practical is so much easier. And this is what really helped me as well, because I was quite a big skeptic when I started with this work 5 years ago. So the law of attraction is one of the 7 laws of the universe. So it's essentially like attracts like. So to give you a really practical example of this, we've all had those days where something annoying's happened, and then we've gone and told someone, we've gone and told somebody else, then we've gone and told somebody else, and something else happens, and you get towards the end of the day and you're like, oh, it has just been one of those days. And then vice versa, when something positive happens, you then go and tell somebody else, and something else happens, and you're like, wow, today's really been my lucky day. This is the law of attraction in action. So how we manifest as such, or bring things into our reality, is through the energy that we put out there. So if we're putting positive, upbeat, optimistic energy out there, we're going to attract those like-minded situations, people, etc., into our life. Whereas if we're feeling in victim mode, if we're, very much putting negative energy out there, not taking action, really sitting in that place consistently, then, this is also going to attract more of those experiences to you. Now, I do want to say one thing, because I do not believe in toxic positivity at all, that it is okay to have negative thoughts. It is okay to have negative thoughts sometimes and doubt yourself. And that's not a reflection of you're doing anything wrong or you're doing anything bad. It's simply just who we are as humans. We're polarity beings. It is not possible to be high vibe all the time. And it is not possible to just stay constantly positive. And a lot of the time, especially in old school teachings, it's very much a kind of brush it under the carpet, just think positive, everything's going to be okay. Whereas from my experience, and I know everybody else's experience, it doesn't work like that. If you're just like bypassing and suppressing it, like, nope, must think positive thoughts, it's just going to keep surfacing. It's going to keep coming up until you look it in the eyes and address it. So that's what I always want to say with that example of, it is important to do that, because that's how you quickly come back to that place where you're naturally and consistently sitting at a higher vibration, where you are feeling authentically happy, and you're feeling authentically, happy, calm, and at peace. So definitely always consider that. So I believe there's 5 steps to the law of attraction. Traditionally, from The Secret and other books like that, they'll give you 3, which is ask, believe, and receive. I found from my own processes that I was a Virgo, and I was like, no, not good enough. I need more. And I realized that it wasn't working as well. I was like, well, I did what they said on the tin. What's happened here? So from my own manifesting experiences, I believe there's 5 steps, and I give these 5 steps to help people and to make it even clearer and more crystal clear for them in terms of the steps they should be taking to manifest. So asking is the first step, and this is putting your intentions out there. So this could be writing them down, doing a vision board, visualizing, meditating, speaking, thinking. There are so many ways we can ask, and I do believe that our asking stage is really unique to us. There is no magical do this and everybody will manifest like magic. I found that visualization is quite hard for me because they get really attached to it. So I find that visualization is a hell no for me, but writing down and speaking things I find is sometimes the quickest way of manifesting. So I always say try different methods, because this will help you find what your superpowers are and what your manifesting strengths are. So it's important to be crystal clear with asking as well. You know, it's not just saying, I want to manifest some money. How much do you want to manifest? What are you going to spend that money on? Really be crystal clear with this, because the clarity helps the universe reflect that clarity back to you. So remember, this is all one big mirror effect. What you're putting out gets mirrored back to you. So this is why clarity is super important. So once you've done your asking, the next step is believe. So same as the original, but I describe it as slightly different to the original term. So the belief stage is believing that, one, the universe can serve it. Yes, you can manifest it, believing that you can do it too. But also, this is where we look at the limiting beliefs and fear stage. So sometimes when we set manifestations or set goals, we notice that maybe some limiting beliefs and fears come up, some contradicting thoughts from the ego, the inner critics that like, you can't do this, or whatever the thoughts are. We all know what they are. So this is when you're in the belief stage, and it's really important to then do the inner work to, you know, move through them and to heal those, so that your vibration is aligning to that version of you who has that desire. So the version of you who has the desire doesn't have those limiting beliefs or fears. So it's really about doing that inner work in that believing stage. That's the most important step. So number 3 is to trust. Now, this is a new step that I've added in. So trusting trusting in divine timing, trusting in the process, but also this is where you take your inspired action. So manifesting is all about co-creation. So it's not just, I'm going to sit back on the sofa, I'm not going to enter the lottery, but I'm going to win the lottery. It's about saying, no, you need to meet the universe halfway. So you only go 50% and the universe meets you 50% of the way. So this is important to take inspired action. So if you want to manifest a new career, start looking for jobs, exploring those avenues, go to interviews, whatever it is, buy those outfits you're going to wear at that job if it feels good to do that. This is where you take that inspired action. And then this is where I'm going to say, for the people like me who are controllers, you don't go 90% of the way. So at this point, once you've taken your inspired action, it's really important you move to this next step, which is number 4, letting go and surrendering. So letting go and surrendering is the most important part of manifesting, but the least spoken about part. Why? Who knows? But now I'm like, everybody, let go and surrender. It will change your life. And what I mean by this is not saying you don't want those things anymore. It's not just saying, oh, right, okay, I've just put all that energy and done all these things, and now Emma's telling me to just forget about it. Not at all. Letting go and surrendering is about detaching from the outcome. So like I said with that mirror example, if you're showing up to the mirror wanting and needing and desperately like, oh, where is it? That is going to be reflected back to you. So letting go and surrendering is being open to all possibilities and trusting that the universe has your back here. So this or something better for the highest good of all. So this is what, you know, you've set your intention with and what you want. But if that's not going to happen for whatever reason, then the universe is going to serve something even better for your highest good. So really letting go and surrendering is relaxing into that place where you know the universe is going to serve your desire for the highest good, but you're open to the hows, whens, whys, all of this. So it's really looking at your energy and making sure you're in that detached space where you're holding that positive vision, but also open to all possibilities. And then number 5 is receive, which is one of the traditional steps where you can celebrate because your desire is here. So expressing gratitude is good. And obviously, you know, don't just like skip to the next thing, like really take that time to be present, to just be like, wow, I actually did that, and really appreciate that moment as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a real journey. That is. I was curious then when you said about surrendering. I was about to say, and then I thought, don't interrupt because I think she might be telling you that. I mean, how often? Like, what's like one of the best experiences of you seeing that work, other than your own example?
What with letting go and surrendering?
Yeah, well, just the whole thing, really, just like trusting in that process, because that's difficult to get to someone to do, I suspect, isn't it?
Oh, really difficult. And again, I will hold my hands up. I'm the worst at this step. Like, one, I've got Virgo in me, so I'm literally like, controlling is in my nature in terms of it must happen like this. I don't like change. But I think as all humans, we all relate to that, where change is scary. And also as well, like when we have our heart set on something or it's really important to us, like, of course it's natural to want those things. Like, you know, we wouldn't be human if we didn't. You know, you wouldn't have got this far if you didn't feel passionate about those things, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's about, again, really leaning into that more feminine energy. So manifesting is quite a masculine energy. energy. So we have divine feminine and divine masculine energy. Every single human being has both energies. And it's really about using both to manifest and to co-create your reality. So the masculine energy is very much like, I will make this happen, I will execute this. And our masculine energy is so good, absolutely, like it's so needed. It's like get up and go energy we all need. Whereas our feminine energy is very much that more flowing energy where we take that step back and we're like, actually, I don't have to do this by myself. The universe is there to co-create with me. I can trust, I can flow. And I think as well, the main thing I've learned is being present. The biggest and easiest way you can really authentically lean into that letting go and surrendering stage, because it has to be done authentically. You can't just say, right, I've let go. No, I haven't. Like, you've got to do it authentically. So it is a leaning in process. And I've had instances where I've had to do it numerous times before I finally hit that sweet spot. Okay, I'm definitely led, I've definitely surrendered now. So I think the easiest way is to really think about your presentness of if you're future tripping or past tripping, you're not here in the present moment. So really it's about taking gratitude for where you are now. Are you grateful for everything you have in your life right now? If you're, wanting to manifest a different career, are you grateful for your current job? Really find peace with that. I feel like the letting go and surrendering is finding peace with now, with how things look now, but also with all possibilities of how your desire or your wishes can come to you.
Yeah, it reminds me of that saying, if you can't be grateful for what you've got, how can you expect more? That really makes me think of that when you say that. I'm grateful for this conversation. I really am. It's wonderful. Okay, so I mean that's manifestation. You mentioned earlier on law of attraction. Just sort of briefly, like not everybody knows what that means. What's a really good explanation for what the law of attraction is?
I don't think I can give like a really scientific explanation. I'm not
No,
really
no.
like I'm not really someone who's great with words, if I'm honest. But how I would describe it from my soul is that connection with the universe of knowing that you're not here by yourself. You have that spiritual team, that connection to the universe. And again, call it what you want, whether it's God, the universe, your higher self, source, whatever, this is your relationship with the universe. So I feel like the law of attraction is like that first step to spirituality and understanding that you can create your reality. You are the author of your life. And that if you're not happy with where you are, you can absolutely freaking change that. You can absolutely, be where you want to be, achieve those things you want to be. If it wasn't possible, you wouldn't even be thinking about those things. So it's about realizing that everything and anything is possible, but we sometimes had to have that bravery and courage to say, right, I'm going to go after this now. I've got to claim this as such. I'm going for this. So really, I think the law of attraction is almost that like permission slip to say, right, I'm going to do this now. I am going to take that action. I am going to co-create with the universe. And I want that. So I'm going to, I'm going to make that happen with the universe.
That's amazing. Permission slip for the universe. That's just fantastic. What a great, you say you're not good with words, but that's a good way of explaining
I'm
it.
writing that one down now.
Yeah, you got that. Yeah, I'll write it down quickly. That's amazing. I love that. Have you seen the Secret movie they've done recently on Netflix?
I actually haven't. I think it's on Amazon Prime, isn't it? I haven't watched it yet.
I think we watched it on Netflix. I watched the first Secret, and I describe it as, first of all, I love the whole idea of The Secret. However, I described the film as the best worst film I've ever seen because it's like it's got a real strong American presence of just lots of, I don't know what the word is, just interesting, bit cheesy, interesting perspectives that are hard to understand, but the premise was just beautiful. But what I loved about the film was the constant reinforcement of what was important. But the other version is more subtle. It's an actual movie, and it's just such a lovely movie. My wife and I were looking for, well, let me just state, she was looking for a chick flick. Not me. And she wanted to watch something. We looked through, we couldn't find anything. And in the end, we saw that and we both watched it together, and we went to bed with this really wholesome feeling. It's a really good film. I encourage you to watch it. It's really good. Okay, so I want to move, sort of pivot now and talk about something that potentially can be quite deep, and that is inner child work.
Mm.
And I wanted you to explain how you view inner child work and its benefits towards self development.
I love inner child work. And I say this because it has honestly been one of the most amazing tools I have worked with along my spiritual journey to just shift so much. And as I've gone along my own inner journey with healing, and then I loved it so much, I went and qualified as an inner child work practitioner. So seeing almost the psychological side of things as well, and the sort of mainstream side of inner child work allowed me to almost like create this, okay, how can I combine the spiritual side with the practical and cognitive side, because this is like, this needs to be spoken about more. So I came across inner child work quite early on in my spiritual journey, about 3-4 years ago. And at first I was like, I'm not really sure how this could help me. And most of us kind of have that inkling of, as soon as they hear inner child work, they're like, oh yeah, I probably need to do that. And I do think pretty much most adults do need to do inner child work to some degree, some on a more kind of intense and more serious way, others in more of a light-hearted fun. But again, I want to say inner child work is fun too. It's not just all about inner work and seriousness and healing. And not everybody is going to have trauma, not everybody is going to have limiting beliefs and fears, but most of the time, and I do truly believe this, and a lot of popular psychologists, so Carl Jung is also a massive preacher of inner child work. He focused on his work in that sense as well. He and a lot of other popular psychologists all say that how we are responding in our adult self is a projection of what we experience in our childhood. So we're kind of like those childlike versions now as adults, projecting out into the world how we perceived the world. So up until 7 years of age, we're like sponges. We are literally absorbing everything. So our parents, our surroundings, how our parents' relationship with money is, how their relationship with love is, everything, our friends, when we go to school. This is literally teaching us how we are going to show up in the world. So a lot of the time when clients come to me and they say, I have this fear of being seen, or I want to do this coaching business, but I have this fear of putting myself out there. We do inner child work. Inner child work is the number one thing I work with now, because I see quick results with it and effective results with it as well. Because it's one thing seeing shifts quickly, we all want that, but it's actually the long-term lasting results with it as well, which is the most important. So I was finding, as I was doing meditation, chakra work, you name it, all these spiritual modalities I've worked with, they work to some degree. But then really the limiting beliefs and fear and trauma that I had beneath the surface was being dealt with in some ways, absolutely. But I really am a big believer, and this is why my inner child work is quite different to what you would expect from a traditional counselor, or what you would look at if you Googled inner child work. Because just with all healing modalities, it's really important that we integrate the physical, the mental, and the emotional side. So the cognitive, the spiritual, and practical side. So yes, meditation's great, but if you aren't working on the cognitive side, because we have human brains, we have a subconscious, which is absorbing things and responding to the outer world as well. So I am a big believer that all three of spiritual, practical, and cognitive really, really help you to embody that healing and see those big shifts. So inner child work is fun. That's what I want to say. I get people and do it myself. We have dance parties with our inner child. We watch movies we loved as children, listening to the Spice Girls, S Club 7. You can have so much fun with this, and meeting your inner child and connecting and building that beautiful relationship together is not only a fantastic way for self-love and self-care, but honestly, like, I feel like I've met my best friend again. And I think we're always so keen to manifest things in the outer reality, or have those friendships, have those relationships in the outer reality, when actually the inner reality needs to be a friendship first. Like, we need to want to spend the rest of our lives with ourselves first and be our own soulmate before we're, in order for our friendships, relationships, family relationships, all relationships to reflect what we want as such. So being your own best friend with your inner child will change your life, period. I'm gonna say it.
Wow. I mean, that again, another lovely statement. Being your best friend with yourself, you know, you are You should write a book.
I might be.
No, honestly, that's fantastic. I mean, you must have seen. I love that idea of you like rocking out with a client to Spice Girls and Escom 7.
I love my job. What can I say?
I
It
was
does.
gonna say, like, yeah, it's a crime that you get paid for that. I'd love to do that. Oh, that's fantastic. That really is. And you know, you've been through that journey yourself too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And, you know, at first it felt quite scary to connect to my inner child. And I guess a lot of the time, and I definitely connect with this, a lot of my clients say they have this like apprehension of like, oh, I know stuff's going to come up, but I'm not sure. So sometimes, like, you know, for yourself, Johnny, you've said, you know that you experienced trauma in your childhood. So for some people, they know those things happened and it can feel almost apprehensive because they don't want to relive it or they don't want to go back into it and the emotions and the darkness, which is totally understandable. Whereas for me, in my instance, and again, I see a lot of people with this, they may not know they've been through trauma. They may not even want to call it trauma. For me, I was like, but I didn't go through abuse as a child. I didn't go through that. Like, I don't want to take away from anybody who has been through generally something really traumatic by calling what I experienced traumatic. But what I learned along, you know, training and looking at a lot of what Carl Jung's work and a lot of other psychologists' work as well with inner child work is the different layers of trauma and what actually goes into trauma and how things like neglect, for instance, you may not think it's neglect, but from actually going through my own inner child work, I realized so much. And again, that's no blame to my parents. It's no blame to anybody. It's me realizing, well, actually, this is what has now shaped my beliefs around love or my beliefs around money or my beliefs around the world. So through going through that work, yes, things came up, but actually it's been the best things to come up because now I've healed and released that. I've never felt so free. I feel here, present. That, you know, it complements all the other spiritual work I do because I have that loving relationship with self.
I mean, I love that. I mean, I spoke to the lady I spoke to in California. Her name's Kate Callie, and she was telling me about an experience that she had with somebody where this person was having a lot of trouble with relationships,
Mm,
and they traced it back to an inner child experience where the as a young 5-year-old girl, she'd gone into the garage and where her dad was with friends, and she'd run up to somebody and hug their leg thinking it was their dad, and it wasn't. And the
mm,
feeling of embarrassment that she felt created a pathway to, you know, basically stunting her growth in that very moment
yeah.
of how to develop a relationship. And I'm fascinated by it at the moment, and it's one of those maybe one of those things where the universe is going nudge nudge nudge, you know, and I'm like, stop nudging me.
I get it.
Yeah, it is, you know, because as you say, you know, some of my stuff is a bit dark, and I've spoken about it with various people in the past, but I think I've developed a set of tools that I've come to the understanding that what I love about self-development is it's not self-completion, it's self-development, which by
Mm.
its very statement suggests that there is work to do every day.
Hmm.
Just like you got to brush your teeth every day, or just like you got to brush your hair. Well, not me, you. But you know, it's that self-care, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's you can't do anything about it unless you're aware of it, is what I'm saying, I think.
Exactly. And we're always going to have things to work on, things come up in layers. And it's not to say that you're always going to experience those beliefs. Or you're always like, not at all. Once you heal and release them, that's it. But, you know, we'll then move on to a different phase in our life where we'll then experience different things and learn different lessons. So I think, like you say, it's having that toolkit to help you to navigate all the different oceans you'll experience and all the different things you'll experience in life.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny in so many ways. Having children gave me a learning and an understanding of others that I never had before, but it also opened up another perspective on my own childhood trauma because
Mm.
I then had this young child who I loved, and then all of a sudden I was like, wow, how can somebody? Oh no, and it became a very difficult moment for me. But you know, as you say, you have to go through this stuff and experience it, and with the ability to then to be able to help others through it too. So I've really enjoyed this. Hopefully, if you're okay for time, I've got one more question. Are you
Let's
okay
go
for that?
for it.
Yeah. Uh, I'm really interested in emotional freedom techniques. I say interested. I don't know what it is, and I want you to tell me about it because I know it's referred to as tapping, right?
Yes. So EFT, emotional freedom technique, anybody listening have heard of tapping before. So when I first saw this, I was like, what? Like my friend was like, Emma, I think you should try EFT. This will really help you. And literally I clicked this link she sent me, and it was to a guy called Brad Yates on YouTube. And I highly recommend Brad for anybody who wants to go and look into this work or try it. He is the loveliest man ever, and his videos are just phenomenal. He's got thousands for every single emotional feeling you can possibly think of. So within our body, we have energetic meridians. I think it's about 90,000 from memory. That could be wrong, but I'm sure it's around 90,000. So it's a lot. And we have main meridians and minor meridians. So these are slightly different to chakras if you're familiar with chakras. So within our body, so our chakras are more of like our energetic body. Our meridians are actually within our body and that energetic field right with our body. So there are certain points, meridian points within our body that when we tap with, I normally use my dominant hand, but there is no right or wrong with it, that basically we can release trapped emotions or trapped feelings from within those meridian points. So think about it as in like stagnant energy as such. So if we're kind of like not moving, we're sat down, we're festering in maybe a thought or a feeling or something that's happened throughout the day, we're almost like festering in it and it's becoming stagnant and stuck. So sometimes, and I really honestly, like the first time I did EFT, I cried my eyes out afterwards. And a lot of people do cry the first time they do it. Again, not a negative thing, almost like a release of like, oh, like that
That
kind
makes
of,
a lot of sense, doesn't it, really, if you think about it?
yeah, like when you've got this stuck energy in your meridian points. And Brad, if you do have a look at his videos, you just follow him. Basically, you tap on your meridian points, and essentially it releases those trapped emotions, those stagnant energy. So it's a great way to shift energy quickly. It's a great way to raise your mood, raise your vibes, and really, really helps on a cognitive level as well, because you'll say, they call them affirmations, but they're slightly different to affirmations that you might be aware of like, I am brave and beautiful. They're different to that. They're more affirmations, which, so you could say like, although I'm feeling this fear, I know that I am safe. So it's different affirmations to what you would probably know normal affirmations as. And although some people are like, well, I don't want to say negative stuff, but again, it's that witnessing. It's witnessing the very emotion to be able to release it and then put in a positive. So I always say, look at Brad's videos. He's a great guide, and it's a great way to just dip your toes in, try it, and see for yourself. So you can do EFT for, emotions, feelings, and releasing things, but you could also do EFT for manifesting as well. So he's got lots of videos on how to manifest money or attract clients, etc., or attract love. So although it always works for the emotional side of things, because those blocks we have are the emotional side, it's great for manifesting as well. So yeah, give it a go.
Sounds good. Are you going to catch me tapping later, I think? The missus is going to be like, Johnny, do we need to talk?
What are you doing?
Yeah, just give me a minute. Listen, I am so grateful for your time today. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I could rewind the start again. I really could. So I'm really grateful for your time. Tell people where they can find you on social, and tell people about anything you've got going on that you'd like them to know about.
Course. Well, you can find me on all social media platforms at I am Emma Mumford, spelled the same way as Mumford and Sons, and over on my website, emmamumford.co.uk. So I'm really active on socials. Come and join me, come and say hi. And in terms of what I've got going on at the moment, I've got my Positively Wealthy book and the Positively Wealthy journal. So again, that's focusing on your version of wealth and money mindset. So if anybody wants to work with their finances or their version of wealth and doing more of the inner work, those books are fabulous for that. But I've also actually, depending on when this interview comes out, I don't know the date, but I've also got a five-day free inner child manifesting challenge. So it's called Creative Manifesting with Your Inner Child. So if you head on over to my socials, the links are all there to join us. So if you are interested with what we've spoken about today with inner child work, then come and join me. Let's do some manifesting with them.
Oh, that's amazing. And also your podcast, I believe.
Yes, Spiritual Queen's Badass Podcast.
do you ever say that any other way, or is that how you say it? Because that's exactly how I say it.
I think you have to. You can just be like, Spiritual Queen's Badass Podcast, Spiritual Queen's Badass Podcast. Like, you got to say.
I love the head. Like, it's amazing. Emma, again, thank you so much for your time today, and let's hope we stay in touch, and that when all these things are, this global pandemic is over and done with, I can hook up one day and say hello.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Johnny, so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.